1. Hello, everyone. This is Omnitalk Retail. I'm Chris Walton.
And I'm Ann Mazinga.
And we are coming to you live from the Walmart Commerce Technologies podcast studio at Shoptalk Europe, Ann.
Yes, we're in booth number K30. So if you are here, please come stop by and say hello. We've got so many wonderful people, including this next guest that we have, Chris.
Yes, and thanks to Walmart Commerce Technologies for making all of our coverage at this show possible. So without further ado, let's introduce today's first interview of the conference. And I am pleased to introduce you Arianne Parisi, the Chief Digital Officer at JD Group. Welcome to Omnitalk.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Why don't we start by having you just give our audience a little background on you and on JD Sports, please?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll try to keep it short. I have had a career in retail, started out on the buying and merchandising side back in the day at Sports Authority, actually.
Sports
in Colorado.
Hence the Colorado connection.
RIP.
Yes.
And so that was my first retail job, and I came up through the ranks in buying and merchandising, and then worked for Nordstrom for a bit in Seattle.
Oh, okay.
In the beauty category, actually, and loved my time there. Made a segue into digital leadership, and then came back to Colorado to lead the Finish Line business. In 2018, Finish Line was acquired by JD Sports, which is a retailer with a massive British heritage and legacy. And JD has been making a push into North America as well as expanding our presence in Europe. And so via the acquisition, I became a part of the JD team and am now leading our digital strategy and execution globally.
Amazing.
Yeah, tell our audience a little bit more back home, because we have predominantly a U.S. audience, but we're here in Europe. Tell us more about JD.
Yeah, it's fun to be in Europe because when I say I work for JD, people know what it is, and I think hopefully that'll resonate in the U.S. soon.
Right.
So we've been on the journey for about 5 years, but really have started to accelerate recently. So we launched the JD brand in 2019, and just for reference, JD Sports we call it a sports fashion retailer.
Okay.
So that's a little bit specific, but what it means really is that we exist kind of at this intersection of sports and fashion, and really our customer is viewing the assortment and these big athletic brands. We're a huge partner to Nike, Adidas, New Balance, North Face, all of the kind of athletic sports brands.
All the big names.
All the big names, but we do it through a fashion lens. And so that's our particular angle and reason to exist. And we launched the brand, like I said, about 5 years ago in the U.S., and now we're about 200 plus stores in North America. So building the brand there, and we see a really big runway for how this could grow in the U.S. So we're talking about 100 stores per year.
Wow.
Wow.
Massive growth path. Globally, JD is a really big company. We're over $10 billion in annual turnover. We've got 3,400 stores in 40 territories. So already a really big presence, and we're hoping to really bring that to the U.S. and stand out there as well.
Yeah, big time retailer here, folks. Mm-hmm. Big time in terms of sales volume. All right, so what brings you to Shoptalk Europe? Have you been here before? What's your approach to the show? We were talking a little bit before we hit record here that you were starting to walk the floor, doing some stop-bys, some flybys of the tech booths. What's your approach?
Yeah, so I have not been to Shoptalk Europe before. I've been to Shoptalk Vegas, and for me, it's always just a good opportunity to meet our existing partners and kind of strengthen those relationships.
Sure.
And then also, obviously, to make some inroads with potential new partners. We have some of our JD team members are here this week, so some JD representation. And really, we're doing both. We're building relationships, we're exploring what's out there, and we're doing it in Barcelona, which is beautiful.
Right.
So don't mind that either.
Hard to turn that down, right? Hard to turn that invitation down, 100%.
Well, Arianne, part of your time here includes some time on stage later on this afternoon. Will you share with us a little bit about what you're going to be talking about there and kind of what you hope people will take away from it?
Yes, I would love to. So my panel is focused on Omnichannel and kind of consistency across channels and cross-channel commerce. So my role is obviously as a digital leader, but I often say that that's a misnomer. I think it's a little bit of an antiquated term.
Yeah.
Because really what I'm centered on is the customer. Mm-hmm. And so ultimately I think that, more and more we're moving away from what was previously revenue-driven silos relative to our channels and into a space where it's really about consumer and the customer at the center of it. So the premise of today is just I'm up on the stage with two other amazing retail leaders to talk about what does cross-channel, omni-channel commerce mean and what are the expectations of consumers and how do we meet those.
And what would you say is your kind of advice for people who are going to be in the audience who are really trying to do the same thing? They're trying to bring the silos together. They're trying to, just take that first step, what's been successful for you at JD that you'd give advice to the audience to do?
Well, candidly, I'm always more self-critical than trying to give us a claim.
Sure.
So I would just say, like any enterprise retailer, we have a lot of legacy and tech debt, and it's we're undergoing a huge transformation, but it's really intentional and it's very strategically focused on the consumer at the center, right? And so I think what we've had to do is interrogate kind of not necessarily like what does the solution look like, but what are we solving for? And get super sharp on our use case and our reason, right? What are the actual expectations of the consumer at which touch point?
Right.
Rather than getting kind of distracted by solutioning up front. Kind of doing that deep effort against the consumer early on and then moving toward that. So I guess that would be my recommendation, is start upstream, be very intentional and very clear about what you're trying to achieve before you start to leap into that transformation.
Arianne, question for you. Like, where does product fall in your organization? Does that fall under you, and do you look at it across both the digital and the store sphere, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, it's like you, that was a great question. We didn't plan that, but I've actually we've just reorganized in that way to bring product online to offline into my organization. So I have a new leader who is very focused on stitching that experience together and thinking about how the products that we either buy or build, the things that we adopt, are really thinking about the through line across channels.
Right, great. That seems to be a key ingredient for those people that seem to understand what Omnichannel is all about. So it's good to hear that. So I'm curious too then, with that in mind, what is one thing that retailers have to get right to be successful in Omnichannel retailing?
I think that there is almost like a decoupling we need to do of our attachment to the pride we've previously had around our own channel silo, right?
Yep.
I think that a lot of folks in retail, we're very competitive. You have a scorecard every day. You can see your results. And so it's great to be results-led, but I think the KPIs that we are used to using historically may not serve us in the future. Because if we're KPI'd and we're incentivized against channel performance, then we lose kind of the through line of the consumer. So my opinion is that it's really rethinking, starting with your organization, your incentives, and the ways you actually speak to your KPIs and how you measure yourself.
So it's new muscle memory entirely then.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that we've figured that out, but you can see a future where that is what's necessary, right? Because otherwise you'll just never get out of that siloed cycle of, building the channel.
100%.
And let's close things out here with where things are headed for you and the JD team in the coming year. What are you excited about as you're striving to improve Omnichannel, to get away from the legacy systems that you have in place and really push your team forward?
I've been in this role for just over a year, and every time I stand in front of my team, I almost start by saying, like, hang with me, we're going through this change, we're going through transformation. It's a little bit painful to continue to say that.
Sure.
But I think as we are undergoing a transformation, we are simultaneously achieving a lot of wins. And what I love about working for JD is that there are very few companies that get the chance to build a new business in the US, right? And so we've almost reached that critical tipping point where we're starting to build brand awareness, we're starting to build critical mass. I was in New York and people start to recognize JD and they know what it means, right? And so it just feels like a very rare and exciting opportunity to break into the market. And I think a lot of people are really encouraged by that and really motivated by what that might mean.
Sure, you kind of get a clean slate to start with, right?
Absolutely.
Like you're just coming into the market and really continuing to evolve and learn as you go along.
And kind of defining a new category, right? There's so much, this is why I love retail. It's so fun to work in this product segment, and so you can't really beat it.
Well, we'll be keeping a close eye. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it kind of gives you some new license to build everything fresh from the ground up, like you said, Ann, and around those new metrics and everything, and defining the future as you and JD want to shape it. So kudos to you. All right, well, that wraps us up. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Again, thanks to Walmart Commerce Technologies for sponsoring our work. If you want to stop by, we're at booth K30. We'll be here all day doing interviews with fabulous retail execs like Arianne. And until next time, Ann.
Be careful out there.